Welcome to another episode of On the Issues with Alon Ben-Meir. We have an unusual situation for today's episode, where our guest is appearing via a pseudonym, Joseph. Joseph is a Turkish university professor, now living in exile in the United States after serving 6 years in prison on charges of being a member of the Hizmet movement. Although he and his immediate family are now in the U.S., Joseph is using a pseudonym due to Erdogan's tyranny and overreach to protect friends and family still living in Turkey, as many others in his situation have done. We hope you will enjoy this unique episode and find Joseph's story illuminating.
Joseph, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And thank you so much for taking the time to discuss this very, very important subject about what's the gross human violation that's been taking place in Turkey for now more than a decade, actually.
That's
I guess, and you were unfortunately, sadly, one of those victims of Erdogan. So I wanted to ask you, what has happened? What were you accused of to begin with that warranted sending you to prison for 6 or 7 years for that matter?
So let me start to introduce myself in a sense that what did I do before going to prison, what I had. And so I was working at the university as a professor, which was supposedly be affiliated with the Hizmet movement. And it was about to target after July 15th coup attempt, actually staged coup attempt. So I did my PhD here in the States, and then in 5 years, and I was working on really hot topic areas. I was invited to give the TED Talks, and I had 2 R&D startup companies. The thing I'm trying to say here is that I was pretty successful at that time in terms of as an academician. So right after the coup attempt, the next week, the government shut down all the schools and universities, including the one I was working at. And right after the shutdown of the university, everyone who is affiliated or connected to the movement was targeted with, of course, false accusations. And because only thing I was accused of, the main thing, basically, I was accused of was working at the university, which was affiliated with the Hizmet movement. And there were 3 main things. First one was the university that I was working at. The second one was the schools that my children attended. They were also affiliated with the Hizmet movement. And the third thing that they didn't come up with any evidence that I downloaded a communication program which is similar to WhatsApp. So I was accused of downloading and using that messaging system, which they claim was only downloaded and used by the Hizmet movement members, which was not true, because it was published on App Store and Google Store, so everyone could have downloaded it. They didn't even come up with any messaging that can be used used against me. So there were no messages, nothing. They were just a claim that I downloaded and used that program. Those 3 accusations that I faced.
I see. And so you stood trial.
Yes, definitely.
So what was the nature of the trial? I mean, how were you treated? What has actually transpired? Have there been any witnesses? Have they called any witnesses? Have they presented any solid evidence of your presumed guilt? What happened actually in the court itself?
Actually, I should start with the time that I spent in the prison before I went to the court for the hearing, and it's been 17 months. I was held in the prison without
Without formal charges being filed against you.
yes, and then without getting the indictment and everything. So when we went there, judges were ready to penalize us. So give the final decision was already made. This is the sense I got, because there were of course accusations based on those three, and there were some witnesses, so-called witnesses. They were saying that yes, I worked in a university. I was a very successful academician, and I also talked and taken good care of the students. That was one of the accusations. So, university president was one of the witnesses who signed my agreement, hiring agreement. It's tragicomic, of course, and he was accusing me of a member of a, Hizmet movement, but he got away with it. So he was the president, and there were some people who could not say anything about it. They said that I was affiliated with those people, and there was no evidence, just their saying against mine. And I asked some really, legitimate questions, which they were not able to answer. They couldn't even look at my face because they were in a position that if they changed their testimony, they were facing to put in the jail. So
Yeah, themselves.
yeah, themselves. So judge was ready to give the sentence, final sentence, at the first hearing. And we insisted that we needed more time to prepare our defense and
So let me start with the first
Mhm.
hearing. After you spent 17 months in the
months.
prison, or
Yes.
before?
No,
Or
no,
before?
after.
So you spent 17 months in prison without any charges being filed against you.
Hmm.
And that is basically administrative detention, almost open-ended.
Yes.
And only 17 months later, now you face the actual, you've been indicted
Hmm.
and facing actual trial. So from this point on,
So there were no. Actually, I forgot to mention another accusation against me was that I put the money. I had a bank account, which was supposedly be affiliated with the movement. So they hired an expert to check my balance activities in that bank, so they can come up with some evidence. I had 15, 10 or 15,000 Turkish lira at that time, which was equivalent of a couple thousand US dollars, which is not a big deal. But they were targeting the people deposited money right after a certain time, which they declared the bank as or the movement as enemy, but they did not do anything officially. Bank was still operating, and they were collecting the data so that they can accuse of the people who had the bank account in that certain bank, Bank Asia. So there was another accusation I forgot to mention. So these are all, funny, childish accusations if you live in a logical, standard world. But in Turkey, they were really, 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 dangerous accusations. So there were enough evidence to keep you in jail at least 6 years, like me.
yeah, for the purpose of our listeners to understand, because you mentioned Hizmet movement, many
Yes.
people don't know what is Hizmet movement. So
Mhm.
the Hizmet movement is a movement that's been led by Fethullah Gulen.
Yes.
And my understanding, I know that Gulen and Erdogan at one point were friends.
Yes.
So I just wanted to explain, because this is very important for our listeners to understand, what happened whereby that President Erdogan became or to the conclusion that actually the Fethullah Gulen is an enemy rather than a friend. What actually happened? Has the movement done anything that could be construed as wrong or against the state to justify what Erdogan has subsequently decided to do following the military coup in July of 2016?
Mm-hmm. Actually, before 2016, in December 2013, there was a huge corruption case in Turkey. It involved ministers, some children of the ministers, some relatives, some Reza Zarrab's, who was also tried in U.S. as well. Uh, and including Prime Minister at that time, Mr. Erdogan, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. So at that day, they decided to, and they thought that it was initiated by the movement, which they had no clue. And there are a lot of tapes, recorded phone calls between Erdogan and his son about getting rid of or investing the cash, millions of dollars or euros. So actually, the last phone call between the younger son of Erdogan and himself was that his son says that I got rid of most of the money uh, in our house, the cash. I'm talking about cash, hundreds of millions of euros, and we only had 30 million left.
30 million.
Yeah, and he said that it's not a big deal, but what should I do? Should I get rid of all of them, or should I keep some of them? So it was the situation. Everything was clear according to my understanding at that time. There was a huge corruption case,
But
and
what this has to do with the Hizmet movement, though?
actually, all of the prosecutors and police officers, police chiefs who are still in the prison after 10 years or 11 years, uh, they claimed that they all were affiliated with the Hizmet movement. So they arrested all the prosecutors and judges and police chiefs and prison. They had life sentences for doing the coup attempt against Erdogan regime. So they are still, most of them are still in the jail and facing with lifetime sentences.
Again, I just want our listeners to understand. So there was massive corruption in the government of Erdogan. So the corruption is within his own government.
Yes,
Are you
including
saying,
himself.
including himself, are you saying that in order for him to whitewash
Yep,
this corruption, he needed to find somebody to blame?
definitely, definitely,
Is
because
that how it is? And the
yes,
one to blame decided it's going to be the Hizmet movement, the
yes.
Fethullah Gulen and his followers. But why did he selected or chose the Hizmet movement to be behind this corruption
Okay.
when in fact Fethullah Gulen and Erdogan were at one point friends? Am I right?
Yeah, they got along with
They got along together.
yeah, they got along together in order to support democracy, in order to increase reduce the military affiliation or military interruption in the democracy. So they were agreed on these some certain issues to improve the democracy or getting into European Union. But later on, because the followers of Fethullah Gulen did not listen to anybody else. They were really good characteristic people, you cannot bribe them. So they cannot they don't see a corruption case, even if they are judges, prosecutors, or police chiefs. They don't turn to another side, other side. So they do whatever their position required to do, but it doesn't necessarily have to be initiated by the movement. But he
So,
knew that those certain type of people can only be affiliated with the movement because others would definitely be bought. So
yeah. So what you're saying, the prosecutors, the judges, the attorneys, and all of that, given that they belong to the Hizmet movement and they are incorruptible.
yes,
So Erdogan needed, to get rid of all of them and
yes,
replace them with people that follow him.
that
Am
is
I
true.
right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is
And
true.
so
And
they
mhm.
all were pretty much sent to jail. Is it because they refused to prosecute members of the Hizmet movement?
No, no, because they were ready to prosecute whoever they see
Feel was
as
corrupt.
definitely, including Hizmet movement members, or they
Okay.
did not care who what the affiliation is.
So so Erdogan didn't like that because actually they were very careful who to prosecute, who not to prosecute, because from their perspective, they are not corrupt and they're prepared to go anyone
Yep.
who's committed acts of corruption of any kind. And so he decided to basically remove all of them from power
Mhm.
and replace them with his own stooges, his own followers. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, definitely, and we can understand right uh, next following day of the stage Q attempt, July 15. There were more than 4,000 or thousands of judges and prosecutors were, arrested, even before the military members who supposedly attempted the stage Q. So
Yeah.
it tells us something. He wanted to get rid of the judiciary members first. They have they don't have to be necessarily members of Hizmet movement. If they see that person as a problem, when they are asked to do or ordered to do something, they would refuse. They got rid of them overnight, right after the Q attempt, stage Q attempt. So it tells us that the first thing to do for Erdogan was getting rid of judiciary members who would not follow his orders.
That's right. And so this so-called military coup, from your perspective, was that all fabricated?
Um, Let me tell you how I heard about the Q. And I was, one of the academicians. I was working at a highly respected university, even if my main research area is not political science, but in Turkey, especially if you are an educated person, you have to deal with politics and read and understand what's going on in there. So I was visiting my father and my mother in my home city, and I got my phone was not with me at that time. I left it my family's home, and my uh, wife called me from the city where we lived at that time, and she told me that, did you see the news? I said, no, I don't watch TV. She said that there's something going on. They say that there is a queue. My immediate response was that, what are you talking about? We are in 2016. What queue are you talking about? It's impossible. No one can do such a thing in these days. So how surprised I was at that time. And Alan, you know how coups are done in, especially in Turkey, since it's your major research area or interest area, one of the major interest areas. So uh, they are not done during the rush hour. So they are not done uh, as if they are trying to get caught in the middle of the coup attempt. So there was definitely something wrong. When I saw the pictures and news, I immediately told, after seeing the first, news and first briefings given by the government members, I said that this is a stage. This is a stage, and they are targeting Hizmet movement, and everything will change from now on. Uh, mhm.
You know, at the time of the coup, I remember myself writing a piece or two on the subject, and my point was, when there is such a coup, the military does two things, military or otherwise, two things before anything else. A, they arrest the head of the state,
Yes.
and B, they control all TV, radio station, newspaper, and everything. And that simply did not happen.
No.
Did
And
not
it,
happen.
it, it usually happens right after midnight,
That's right.
when they fell into sleep.
And so he had an opportunity to use his own phone and instruct everybody to do what he wanted to do. So there's enough, I think, evidence to suggest that it was a stage. And in so doing, he also wanted to get rid of the military brass,
Yep.
subsequent to dismissing judges and prosecutors, all of that. Now it's time also to get rid of the military brass who might be opposing him and replace them with his own loyalists, so to speak. Am I right?
Yes, and later on we learned that there were some high-ranking military officers who were opposing Erdogan regarding Syrian problems.
Right.
So he wanted to put the military in the Syria, and there were some high-ranking generals, they were opposing him. So he gained in every aspect right after the coup. He
Well,
got everything he wanted.
well, he used the excuse that in a democracy, the military should be subordinated
Yep.
to the civilian authorities, to the defense minister, to the prime minister, to the president. And so that was his excuse, specifically given that Turkey has gone through three revolutionary by the military. And then he came in, introduced presumably democracy, albeit he did very well initially, the first 5, 6 years when he came to power. So let me now go back, now that I think that those who listen understand the background. Now you were arrested and you were sent to the administrative detention for 17 months until the trial. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience during these 17 months and then subsequently in the prison? What did you learn in the prison? What have you seen? The treatment and all of that.
Mhm. So on July 31st, July 29th, or 2016, I attempted to leave the country, and but I was stopped at the airport and had my passport confiscated, allegedly due to a report of missing passport. I told them that I have my passport. I didn't report anything like this, but they did not let me go, leave the country, and they confiscated my passport, but they did not even arrest me at that time. And I never got my passport until I was released from the prison. On July 31st, I was luckily able to send my family, my wife and two children, out of the country. So that was the lucky thing that happened at that time. But interestingly, sometimes you have a song you unintentionally repeat in your mouth, and you sing, or you repeat one sentence after and after. So after leaving my family, not I kept saying that nothing will be the same, maybe 100 times.
Wow.
Nothing will be the same, nothing will be the same, and nothing has been the same after that point. So on August 26th, right, month later, I was arrested I was taken under the custody in Ankara when I was visiting my sister at that time. And they came and they arrested me, taken to the police station, uh, hospital first, then police station, and I was transferred to the city that I was supposedly be tried. And in the custody, we were placed in a holding room, and we were later asked to move to another room. Do you know what the reason was? Because there was a baby, newborn baby, and his mother. Baby needed to be breastfed. So it was the first time I started to realize how dangerous these people can be and how bad situation we are in. Because
You mean
before
they
that,
even arrested a woman with a baby?
newborn baby, maybe a couple months old.
I see. Okay.
So this was the first time it hit me, and before that, I was thinking that because they kept saying that they need to you need to explain what happened, and then probably they will let you go. And I was hoping for that, but after that moment, I knew that nothing will be the same. So nothing is the same. After the transfer, I was kept in under for my testimony. I was in the how do you say under custody for 8 days. The custody is even worse than the prison because there is no place to sleep, all wood or cement floor, and there is no even blanket. It was summertime, but it was too hot. There was no access to bathroom, and of course restroom, and we there were more than 100 people, and there were only two bathrooms, if I'm not mistaken. And the police officers, used to take us one by one. So you can only go to the restroom in 5, 6 hours, even if you are in a bad situation. If you are old, you have some problems, you have to go more frequently to the restroom. They didn't care, and we didn't have a proper meal during that time. There were not enough water. It was too hot during we are talking about August, and there were you cannot even take shower for 8 days. We did not, and after 8 days, we were able to give our testimony. We were asked what bank accounts did we have, where what time did I start working at that university? Those type of simple questions. I was sure that I gave the right answers. There were no problems with my answers or the thing that they have in their hands as evidence against me. But on September 3rd, I was arrested, officially arrested at the court, pre-court or by the judge, and sent to the prison. I forced to move three different prisons, but when the human being is interesting, you get used to all the situations that you are in. And right after the detention places, the prison looked really comfortable to me because there were beds or proper meals, people at least you can talk to. But after that, we were put in rooms which were supposed to hold 10 people, but we were at least 25, 30 people. We were living in there. There were a lot of bugs or cockroaches and other, pasts. Even if we were some of the cleanest prisoners in that prison, but we were living in a place which was so small, and there were a lot of people, and even we had one bathroom, and one restroom. So we used to line in front of the bathroom. And there were no, a couple hours of hot water. So you have to make a schedule. If you exceed your time, you are warned by your prison mates, and the cleanliness was not, everything was different than what we used to outside. So I had a really hard time adjusting myself into these conditions. But the most, excruciating thing was the psychological side of it. And of course, the places were not good. Places were not enough to hold that many people. But psychological part was even worse because we thought that there was a mistake, of course. They made a mistake. It happens in Turkey, we know from the history. And we were sure that we were going to be released in couple months when they realized that they made a mistake. But day by day, we realized that they do not think that they made a mistake. They thought that they caught us on purpose, and we would spend some time in there. So that was the, psychological portion was even worse than the physical conditions in the prison.
Yeah. So you moved from a good, fairly, it's no good prison, but more comfortable prison into a much worse one.
Yep.
And you said you moved 3 times. Was the third one worse than the second?
Third one was the newest one because Erdogan regime is proud of building new facilities for the inmates. So since they arrested almost everybody who has connection, even little friendship with the people who have connected with the Hizmet movement, so they built a lot of prisons, correctional facilities. So the third one was the new one, newly built one. But we had, even though the prison building was not as bad as the previous one, because we had two bathrooms in that place, and I spent a brief time over there. But the personnel and guards were very immature and young. So, and the administrators were really, really bad, and they were always putting themselves as in the place of the judges. So they would do a lot of bad things to
So,
the
yeah.
prisoners like us.
So what you're saying, the prison was new, the conditions in the prison were better, but then you've been governed, you've been by immature young people and administrators who have no experience
Hmm.
in administering, in dealing with the prisons, because he built so many and he needed to recruit new people in order to run these prisons. Now tell me, how about, how were you treated, in fact, in the prison, the first, the second, or the third? Were you abused? Were you tortured? Have you seen torture? Have you heard of torture?
I've heard physical torture, but I have never witnessed. But I have seen a lot of psychological torture, of course. For example, at the beginning of my imprisonment, uh, I we did not have enough time or enough given time to communicate with our families. Since my family was outside of the Turkey, we had to come up with some creative ideas. So I would connect to my father's phone, and they would connect to the my wife's phone. So it was not allowed at that time because you cannot give them the outsider, the cell phone outside of the Turkey. So the communication was really, really problem at the beginning. I was able to communicate with properly communicate with my family after 2 years. And when I say communicate, I am talking about 10 minutes voice call. Whereas the
Every day you could talk to
no,
them for
no,
10
no,
minutes
no, 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 no. At a certain day, uh, once 10 minutes in a week.
in a week. 10 minutes in a week. Okay.
Yeah, and voice call. Whereas the others, when I say others, the thieves, killers, and drug dealers, smugglers, they had 30 minutes a week, including, and they had the option to call their relatives with a video call. So
So why is that?
because of the our position, you asked
So
me
they
how
consider
were, yeah,
your affiliation with the Hizmet movement worse than actual criminals,
of course.
killers, rapers, and and drug dealers. Is that what you're saying?
This is a very naive question to ask in Turkey, Ellen. So let me tell you a story, an anecdote I heard from my sister who visited me during that time. Uh, she heard me that two people were talking on the bus to prison when they are coming to visit us. And one relative of a prisoner asked the other, they were sitting together, what is the situation with your relatives who is in prison? And she said that my husband is accused of being member of Hizmet movement. And the other one was devastated. Wow, at least my relative is not in those positions. Sorry for that. And the other one got curious and asked what the other prisoner's sentence was. Oh, no, she said that it's not as big deal as yours. He killed someone.
That's just strange. Yeah.
And and
Is this true story?
it is definitely a true story. It is definitely true story. I would have not believed it if I haven't heard from my sister personally. So it is a true story. It gives you sense how people treated or have seen us, how dangerous we were in the eyes of, because when we were talking about the Turkey's media, 95, 98 maybe percent of the media is controlled by government and used as propaganda tool. So no one had actually opportunity to have chance to reach the real stories behind what was going on. Still,
Now,
it's the case.
in the prison, did you have, did you meet other kind of prisoners, not necessarily accused of being of the affiliation with the Hizmet movement? Have you met others like killers, rapers, whatever, drug dealers, or they were completely separate areas?
Most of the time they were separate, but in order to make us uncomfortable and force us to give more information about the people, basically they needed to have names so that they can accuse of more people. We spent 6 months with the people who were killers, thieves, and drug dealers. The majority was drug dealers, but we had still killer and thieves as well. And uh, it was the worst 6 months period of the imprisonment, uh, and they excessively smoke, and they do not follow any, time schedule. They stay up all night and they smoke all night. They do not understand what we are doing. So it was really harsh. And, there's a funny and interesting story. There was one side who believed that we were worse than killers. And on the other side, there were some people who understand that we were put in a jail with false accusations and we were really good people. There is an example I witnessed in firsthand. Uh, After they combined us with other types of prisoners, killers, drug dealers, and others, they had a visit. One of the friend had a mom who is pretty religious, and when they met, our new roommate told his mother that we were combined with those type of people, Hizmet members. And she was so happy. She told him that I have been praying for this son. Please, please take good care of them and try to benefit out of them. These are really good people. We are okay outside. I want you to be go with well with these people so that you can become a good person. So some of the other type of prisoners got really, changed the direction of their lives after spending 6 months with us. They learned how to read Quran, which is the religious book of, holy book of Islam, and they tried to started to practice 5 times daily prayer. They promised us and they themselves to be a good person. And I know of some of them they are still in a good position and trying to be good person, and so it was one of the small positive sides of being putting together with other types of criminals in the prison. But in general it was horrible. I remember crying the first night because of the smell of the smoke, and I cried all night because I was not able to sleep because of the smoke coming downstairs.
Yeah. So you were sentenced to 7 years, you said?
No, total of 9 years and 3 months.
9 years and 3 months. Did you serve 9 years and 3 months, or you were
I
released before that?
you have to serve 3 quarters of it, and you can be released a year earlier. I was released at the minimum time, and now I am hearing that I just talked to one of my friends in Turkey who did not get 1 year early release, and in some cases, they even force them to stay in the prison uh, whole 4 out of four, or whole 9 years and 3 months. For in my case, for example,
So, but you were released after 7 years?
6 years together.
6 years. So you
Yes.
stayed 6 years, including the initial 17 months,
Yes.
including the detention period. I
Mhm.
see. So um, tell me again, I want the listeners to understand. So Erdogan decided that the Hizmet movement was basically opposition, and he wanted to rid himself of this whole movement. What is the principal difference in terms of religious belief or cultural differences? What is the actual? I mean, I know, but I just want
Mhm.
the listeners to understand between the two movements, between his brand of Islam versus his movement brand of Islam.
Mhm.
Is there a significant difference? Why did he decide that the Hizmet movement is basically his mortal political competitors with his
Mhm.
government?
So my understanding is that Erdogan represents political Islam. So by saying I don't want to put other political Islam representatives under the shed light, but Erdogan personally believes that everything can be done to reach some certain goals. And Hizmet movement people believes that you have to follow uh, ethical rules or Islamic rules, or and you have to stay as a good person while you are going through a certain goal. So that's, I think, is the main difference. And Erdogan did not even hesitate when putting thousands of people in jail, having them killed in the prison. I have another anecdote with that I can tell you later on. Actually, there were reportedly more than 100 people committed suicide because of the situation that they were in. Because we were talking about highly educated people. I saw that difference in the when I was in prison. For other criminals, regular criminals, they go in the prison, get out, go in. It's kind of part of their daily routine. But for highly educated police officers, for example, university professors, teachers, they did not even have a traffic ticket before. So can you imagine how huge of an impact this situation can have on this type of personality? So I think that was the biggest difference between us and the other regular, criminals. And when it comes to Erdogan, Erdogan thinks that he is a Khalifa. According to my understanding, he doesn't say that out loud, of course, but he believes in that. And he believes that whatever he does is right and rest is wrong. And Hizmet movement believes in deciding when doing something, deciding together, deciding collectively.
Collective.
Yes.
So I, so I'm just trying to make it a little clear. So the difference is Erdogan believes in political Islam, and he used politics as a means by which to reach any objective he wants. The
Yes.
Hizmet movement believes in values.
Yes.
In values, that is, religiously speaking, there is not much difference, but the way they want to achieve things, approaching, is by adhering to certain human values. That is as a tool by which to realize, by which to achieve their objective. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, kind of. You put in a good sentence or two. And the another basic fundamental difference between Hizmet movement and Erdogan is that Erdogan needs to find an enemy all the time,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
because to consolidate his followers or voters. But Hizmet movement tried to find allies all the time. Even if we disagree on some certain issues, we claim that we always believe that we can agree on some other things. So this can be put as a huge difference between Erdogan or and Hizmet movement.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is quite common, in many of these countries, be that Iran, Russia, they need an enemy in order to consolidate their power domestically and otherwise. And in your case, as you know, the Hizmet movement is it's reaching out for collective, or through values rather than using politics as a tool by which, that is, they want to widen their tent, so to speak, not through coercion, not through pressure, not through intimidation, but to the contrary, through values that they actually believe in. And that's basically the stark difference you're saying between the Erdogan approach and the Hizmet movement approach. Anything else of interesting that you've experienced in the prison?
Mhm. I can, try to share some of them. Uh, it was on 2018, I believe, and we were playing volleyball. Uh, in the yard. When I say yard, uh, six, step by 7 steps. So it was that big, and it had concrete floor. We were playing volleyball, and our ball went out of the walls, and then the guards came in, and they put us in the room and started to build fences on actually meshes on top of our yard. And we thought that it was because of the balls that kept, getting out of our yard. And later on, we learned that it was purposely done just only the Hizmet movements members' rooms so that they do not see the light directly, sun directly. And uh, as if one was not enough, they put second layer of the mesh. So later on, because the inmates used to, communicate through
Right,
something to the
right,
next
right.
room, they wanted to prevent that. So we were not able to see sun directly for maybe during the day I spent in that prison. So it was one of the worst experience I had.
And so when you were released on any under any kind of conditions that you have you're released, provided you do A, B, C, or D, or you were just released and let go.
No, it's not that easy. They look at, they read all of your letters. They read all, look at all the books you ordered outside or taken to read from library, and they take, uh, they ask other inmates, and they gather information about you. And there is a commission, and they directly ask you whether you will be again connected to this movement when you are released or not. Whether
And
you,
what did you have? What did you say? You are
of
not. You will not.
of course, I told them not. I'm not going to. I don't even know these people anymore. Otherwise, I could
They
have.
won't let release
Yeah,
you. Yes.
yes, yes. And the other person I talked to a couple days ago had a letter. They found something about the Hizmet movement in letter years before the release date, and they kept him another year. That part is even more devastating than the whole part, because you are prepared to be released, and you last minute you learn that you cannot. So it's devastating for the inmate. It's even more devastating for the family members outside. And they ask whether you will go outside of the country, even if as if it's their job. After release, I do not have any, limitation to go out of the country, but they still want to make sure that the released inmates are not going to leave the country.
So how did you leave then?
So, good thing is that they do not have a close connection with each other. I had no reason to be held in the country. But you are afraid of applying for passport, getting out of the country, and I was lucky that I was able to get my passport after 3 months later than my release time, and I was able to get the visa. But I was not sure whether I was going to be stopped at the airport and taken into the jail one more time, because you were given the sense that if you do anything, because you feel that in Turkey, especially after release time, you feel that you are under surveillance. Your phones are tapped. At least you get a
Yeah,
sensation,
well, they make
feeling.
you feel that you are under surveillance,
Yes,
even if you're
definitely.
not. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you also encounter spies in the jail itself that
Yep.
actually mingle with the other prisoners only to get information. You
Hmm.
have have you come across these individuals, or have you known about some of them?
Unfortunately, yes. It happened. People are after spending years in jail, they because they do not come to get information from you. They threaten you with something. They say, "We found something in your letter. It can be interpreted as against you, or as you are continuing your ties with the movement. So, if you want to be released on time, you need to give us some information about people you are staying with."
Yeah, so they use the prisoners under threat to
Yep.
gather information on other prisoners
Yes.
in order to, Well, I mean, it's fascinating. So, is there anything else you would like to add to this before we conclude?
Actually, since we had a really bad situation physically and mentally, after some certain point, you have to make a decision when you are in the prison, whether you keep worrying about the situation that you and your family are in, or you accept it as it is and try to live up to it, live with it. So I, after got my sentence, it's interesting, but it's kind of a relief, because now you have days to count.
Uh-huh.
Now the uncertainty is gone. So after that point, I decided to focus on what I can do in where I live. So I decided to teach people English. I taught 15, 20 people from almost zero to some certain level. And we used to read and talk to each other in English so that the English can improve and I do not forget what I have. And there were a lot of people who did the same thing. There were a lot of, university attending people, open university. So they try to keep themselves as busy as they can, so that they do not think those situations that they were in. And I also try to read as much as I can, so at least I can gain something. I read about around 500 books, even though it was restricted. And even though we were not able to order a book on some certain times, they changed the rules. We were able to order 2 books outside of the prison a month, and library was too bad to very minimum number of books in there. But we decided to focus on the positive sides and what we can in the prison. So we ordered books collectively. So 2 books, I ordered 2 books. A group of people ordered other books, and we exchanged our
Right,
books
right,
so that we
right.
can read more books. So
Uh-huh.
we did try to do some exercise in the yard, 6 step by 7 step yard,
Uh-huh.
concrete. So we tried to be in a positive mood, but physically and mentally it was really, really bad. And but this, knowing that you did nothing wrong and you are going out of the prison sooner or later, makes you relief and makes you focus on some certain areas, positive sides. But there were some people who were not able to do that, who had mental problems and medical problems. I earlier told you to tell about a story about old man died in our room. Actually, he was 82 or something, or 77. He was at 77 with a lot of different illnesses. He got cold and he was already using a lot of pills and medicine. And we asked administration to take this poor man, to the hospital. And we wrote, asked them, informed them personally, and in writing. We did everything we can to take this poor man into hospital. And they refused to do that until a week later. They understood that the situation is really bad, and they came and took him. It was the last time we saw him, and they claimed that he died because of the heart attack, but they basically killed him. So, in prison, when someone dies next to you, you are pretty much affected
Well,
by
of
it.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was one of the worst times that we had in prison.
So just final question. So how many months you stayed after you left the prison before you left to the country?
8 months.
8 months, I see. But
Mhm.
your family was already abroad.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
were abroad, yeah. Well, I mean, it's really fascinating. I think it's a story, obviously, to be told. And this is, in your case, based on what I know, your case is mild. The hundred, the thousand, and many tens of thousands have been incarcerated,
Yes.
have been facing considerably harsher conditions in Turkey, and they still do.
Yeah.
Many innocent people, including journalists, including all kinds of people from all walks of life. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time, Yosef.
And one last thing to add, uh, to show people that how bad they have gone. Actually, they arrested almost around 20 high school students aged between 15 to 20. So 13 actually, as low as 13, because they got together and they studied together, they went to cinema together. So how bad the situation in Turkey right now, this is unbelievable, unacceptable. But when you head the wrong way, there's no way stopping. So Turkey is in that direction, unfortunately. Hopefully it comes back on track, and then those people unlawfully held in prison are released soon. Thank you for giving the opportunity, Alan, by the way.
No, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And all the very best to you. Thank you for listening to this episode on the issues. You can find this podcast on my SoundCloud page, and stay tuned to my social media accounts for the latest analysis and announcements.